All right, thank you everyone for being patient with us today. We were just having some last-minute technical difficulties before getting started. So thank you everyone for joining us for our second webinar. We will be talking about digital storytelling today. And I would love to present our speaker for today. His name is Joe Fore. He is a Director of Digital Education and Education Professor at Wisconsin Lutheran College. He started his educational career as a biology and mathematics teacher, and he now owns Fore Communications, New Line Education, and Digital Publishing House, LLC. He loves to promote digital citizenship, literacy, immersion, and creativity. Joe Fore is also a TEDx presenter, a techno nerd, a horrible skateboarder, but he loves to spend his time consulting, speaking, helping others, schools, and communities identify the best ways to incorporate technology. So just some short housekeeping rules. You see on the right-hand side all of the hashtag comments and questions relating to Blendspace. For anyone who is not on Twitter and wants to be able to participate, I'll also be viewing our moderating our Facebook page, which you can find just at facebook.com/Blendspace. And so you can ask any type of questions there as well. I just tweeted out the presentation that Joe will be going through, so please definitely do follow along. And now I'm going to pass it over to Joe. Oh, Joe, you're muted.
I forgot that you
There you go.
There I am. All right, I'm back. Okay, good deal. So let me get back here. So yes, I'm going to start out with a very brief primer on digital storytelling. So what is digital storytelling? Well, realistically, it's just telling your story through digital means. And in this case, we're doing it with Blendspace, which is a perfect tool for doing just about anything. And this Wordle kind of just sums it up. How many different crazy things that are actually incorporated into digital storytelling and all of the benefits that would come from telling stories in a digital form. You increase students' imagination. You actually give them that spatial awareness because now they have to be able to line things up in a digital storyboard style fashion. You increase actually their listening skills. When they have to think about what they want to say, they have to think about how to listen, so that actually increases that. Memory skills, oral presentation abilities obviously are one thing that would be bolstered, grown, and fostered through something like giving a student a chance to show their voice in many other forms beyond just written communication. So you have higher order processing is probably the #1 reason to do digital storytelling, because they have to synthesize, they have to bring in content, rationalize how it needs to be displayed, how it needs to be talked about, how it needs to be disseminated, and certainly literacy skills come into play. So there are all types of digital storytelling opportunities and types, but basically there are 3 probably major scenarios for them. We have straight up animations. Then there are the digital books where you're talking about literally having images and text with a voiceover perhaps for the digital book style. And then you have videos that could be created. And then from within there, there's a whole separate category. Now we're talking more along the lines of what the content inside of them are. So are you using a digital story to present something, to actually just do an online presentation? Are you retelling a story per se? Or maybe you're doing something more along the lines of a conflict resolution component where you can identify characters who then have to work through a scenario. So there's all different ways that you can use digital storytelling. And my text is a little bit tiny here, but I'm going to tell you guys what it is anyways, and you do have the link to this. But the tools that you'll absolutely need if you're going to make a decent digital tool or digital storytelling using tools, you definitely want a microphone. And in this case, we're using Blendspace, which has a ton of different opportunities and options for you to add in and create very different kind of digital stories, as well as traditional style digital stories, using everything from YouTube videos to adding images, adding your own audio through audio comments, even in adding in web pages and edu creation screen capture style opportunities from within Blendspace. So let's just take a tour. Let's see one of the first style or one of the first possibilities of digital storytelling from within Blendspace. In this case, I decided to have a video narrative. So I'm telling a story, but I'm explaining a concept here, and I'm just going to give you a snippet of what this might look like in digital storytelling form. And so instead of having a slide that explains something in a voiceover, I actually just used YouTube. Just went over here to YouTube, used the upload button right here, clicked on it, and then hit record, and I recorded myself doing a little video cast. And the beautiful part about both YouTube and Blendspace is that you can use your Google login for both. So you don't even, once you get a student into Blendspace, they can, with their Google account, you can also have them doing YouTube things, or even as a teacher or educator, you can certainly easily just capture yourself saying or doing something. And so here's the beginning of the story.
Let me tell you a story about how a subatomic particle made his way to fame.
So I don't know if you caught that. I basically just said, let me tell you a story about a subatomic particle that makes his way to fame. And then after that, here's the little parenthetical information for the student to actually then read, followed by another. This is the next part of the story. So now the story continues. So the student is exposed to the story, they then read part of the story, and then they're exposed to another part of the video story. So it's almost like telling a video narrative along the way. And in this case, we're actually explaining a concept, but you can certainly think of probably 50 different things that you could do, including you could read a children's book to the kids and have, instead of each page, the page could be you acting out or the kids acting out that page of the children's book or that concept, and then you embed it right into Blendspace, because it's literally a drag and drop scenario for Blendspace. As soon as you have that video created, this took me all of about 17 seconds to create, 10 seconds to record, and about 7 more seconds to drop into each slide. And I don't know if that makes a terrible ton of sense to you, but honestly, it's about as easy as it gets, and in a little bit I'll show you just about how that works. So E is for electron rings, and so you can have a whole bunch of different components there after the video sets. And I'm not going to dive into this very much because we're going to see how some of these more static style photos and these static concepts here play out in some other scenarios for digital storytelling. So this is just the idea, that was the idea of doing a voice with video, so that true video narrative concept. Now I'm just going to show you a quick example of simple storytelling, just telling a story with a voiceover using Blendspace. When you do this, here's a book that my wife had written before called 2x2, and instead of creating this digital story out in a place like Storybird or something like that, you can actually so simply incorporate, and I don't know if you can see this on my screen, there's a tiny little button up here to play this.
2x2 by Laura Dufort.
Oh, a little hot.
Illustrated by
Sorry.
Jason Nelman.
So you can see I'm actually just reading the story that has actually been uploaded to Blendspace. So if the kid is so young that they can't read this, now they have the opportunity to sit online and actually read through the story. And if they can't read the text, they get to press the play button. Or even if they do want to read along with the voiceover, they can press the play button, follow along with the letters. And it's really a fairly simple way to have students follow along and work through this digital story. And this digital story is actually even more dynamic than a typical digital story, because you're getting feedback as an educator. The students can thumbs up each page or thumbs down each page. They can then leave their own comments back on this, like, I didn't understand this word, or I really love this page, is my favorite. And all the while, these metrics are being tracked in the background. So you as an educator can look in there and see how long each student maybe stayed on each page, or how long did they progress through this book. And you can do the same thing even if you don't have your own artwork like you see here with my wife's book. You can start grabbing things from Google and actually putting them in here just with that drag and drop feature within Blendspace. So now this is a story about F. F is, and I could press play up here and you can see how it says this is a story about F and all things F. So then kids are just taking Google images and dropping them in, but then through the voiceover, through the comment section, they're able to tell a story about this. And so now they're writing a book, and here I have a little excerpt. Flight. Flight starts with. And so you can hear my kids actually got to say the F part there, and they really, I mean, I did this right before this presentation just to see what my kids thought of this digital book, and they were so excited just to do the little letter F in here, the F sound, that they were all beaming from ear to ear. And you can imagine just how excited a kid would be to create something like this, where they actually have a step through series by series, maybe 10 slides, where they're just putting their voice in here and they're telling you a story, maybe about a tarantula or a brick or anything, and you can come up with 100 different scenarios about why or what students could do with something as simple as a voiceover option. Now you have the digital storytelling from the screen capture style. And screen capture is when you are recording anything that's going on a screen. And in this case, the option that I'm showing you incorporates an actual iPad, because you have to have an iPad to use EduCreation, which is what I'm about to show you. And that EduCreation is just a way for you to write on that tablet screen at the same time as recording your voice, which gives you that ability to do sort of a digital storytelling there again, but then it becomes a simple, ridiculously simple step to embed it directly here into Blendspace, which now again gives you those options for posting it or hosting it other places, sharing with your class, because Blendspace allows you to have your own kind of classroom where you can more easily share things with people and track those metrics that we were talking about before. But you can bookend this story. Remember, you don't have to let something like, here, I'll just show you a little tiny bit of this screen capture piece right here. So you can see how it's more alive, and you can actually see the transitioning and the drawing of this. And if I turn this up, there we go. You can see that this is going to progress and actually tell a story about something, but you can bookend this, like I said, with other content. Whereas if all I do is use EduCreations, which is a wonderful, wonderful tool, I'm not able to put assessments at the end or allow students to comment back. I can't put a PDF after it and have students access it and fill it out, or grab a Google document and put it in there to share with the students afterwards. So Blendspace gives us this wonderful opportunity to begin tying all these different digital storytelling components together into one single place from a different set of concepts in a variety of different ways. One of the final ones that I want to show you here is, that's not a typo, by the way, it's storytelling and story stealing with assessments, essentially. So you don't have to, and I think you're already seeing in here, you don't even have to utilize your own digital storytelling, which is a wonderful thing, don't get me wrong. I would advocate any time for either you as an educator to tell a story digitally, or even more importantly, have those students tell a story digitally. But you can take other people's digital stories, like you're about to see here, like the invisible alligator, and launch this tab straight from within Blendspace and have the students read or go through this digital story, which happens to be online. It's not necessarily in Blendspace, but the beautiful part about this entire concept is now when they go back to Blendspace and they click on the very next thing, this is where that assessment is built in. So now you don't have that assessment piece. If all you do is send the students to that storybook and have them read it, you don't have that instantly incorporated assessment piece back in here. So what was Sari's favorite subject in school? Well, we'll see if any of you guys know this, because you have access to this link, and so we can in the end find out how many of you actually read the book. Lunch would be my favorite. However, you're going to find out maybe Sari's is a little bit different. And so I'm not even going to give you the answer. Well, maybe I will. I'll say Algebra 2, because who wouldn't love Algebra 2, right? And submit this, and ding, 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 that was indeed the favorite. Before I leave you guys completely, and even before I get to the extras here, I just want to illustrate or emphasize that important nature of being creative within something like Blendspace that is a collaborative component. It is a place that you can do cloud computing, so you can actually access this from anywhere. And let me back up 15 seconds and say that collaborative piece is ever important, because now you can actually have a group of 2, 5, 7 students working on the same exact digital story together, and they can all be collectively finding images and putting them in, deciding what they want to say about the content, and telling a story in their own voice and in their own way. Maybe they're just making a video intro followed by images that have voiceovers on them with a video outro and a piece of assessment at the very end. So now we're taking digital storytelling and really exploding all of the possibilities about what we used to think about storytelling and how we could tell stories in a digital fashion. So just throwing in some extras here for you from this digital storytelling website, just some great points of view about how you should be helping your students think about putting together a good digital story, that they have to hit on those emotional heartstrings, that the pacing is important, that they have to cut out the fat, or in this case they call it the economy of digital storytelling, that you're not allowed to talk for 5 whole minutes on one slide. You have to think about what you want to say for each individual component. And then back here at the very end of the presentation, you can click on a little thing that explains to you how do you use YouTube to not only capture what you're saying, but you may not realize you can use YouTube to actually edit the video before you then embed it into Blendspace. And WeVideo is a ridiculously wonderful tool that you can do exactly the same thing with, and both of those play very well with Blendspace. Before I head out of here, I just want to show you very quickly what I'm talking about when I'm talking about incorporating YouTube videos and some other things. So YouTube right here, all you have to do is literally click on the YouTube button. You go to your YouTube video, and you find the video, you copy the URL, you paste it back in here, and boom, it shows up. You grab a hold of the video, and you drop it in place. It hardly gets any easier than that when it comes to just YouTube record yourself saying what you want to say, Blendspace, you drop it into place. That's it. It's about as easy as it gets. You guys probably hear my kids yelling in the background. Google Images, same thing. Here's that EduCreations thing, where you first, like I said, have to use an iPad to create that screen capture piece, but it is just ridiculously easy once you've actually created it to post it to EduCreations and then slide it right into place once you have it posted on a different site. And there's all of these different tools throughout here, including, I talked about WeVideo. I would never talk about something unless you can easily incorporate it into the tool that I'm talking about, Blendspace here. But honestly, in WeVideo, you can have it sync up with your Google Drive so that it saves the finished product in Google Drive. Well, now you have the opportunity to, again, drag and drop it into place. And so that's the basics of what I want you to understand about the simplicity of creating digital stories, but also the power of digital stories, so that when students are done, they feel like they've accomplished something, and they also feel fulfilled, and they've had to do that higher order thinking, and they've had to create a real viable living story that they wanted to tell in digital form. End of story. I'm done.
Well, fantastic, Joe. Thank you so much for that fantastic story on digital storytelling. As Joe mentioned, there's a lot of great opportunities here for your students to be able to create their own stories within Blendspace. And I would like to take the last 5 minutes of our hangout to show you how can you get your students on board, because not only can you as a teacher create lessons and post them on Blendspace, but students can too as well. And to get started, it is really, really, really simple. You'll see my screen here. And what you'll see here is your lessons screen, and that is the screen that you see when you first log on to Blendspace. And all you have to do to have your students be able to create lessons on Blendspace is you need to add them to a class. So right underneath the Lessons tab on the left-hand side, you see the Classes tab. And when you click on your Classes tab, you see all of the classes that you have within Blendspace. So right now I've created a few ones in my demo account. But if you want to get started, on the very bottom to add a class, all you need to do is click on the grade level. So I'm just going to say 7th grade English period 1, add class. And when you add the class, you will be shown a 4-letter class code that is specific and unique to your class alone. And what you need to do is just simply give this class code to your students, and having your students be able to sign in or log on to Blendspace with this code. So for example, I'm just going to copy and paste this, and then I will go and sign out of here. And I'm going to go and sign up for Blendspace. And when you're signing up, we ask you, are you a teacher or are you a student? So here I'm going to say I'm a student. First name, I'm just going to say Amy Lin. And the email address here, we get a lot of questions from folks. Are emails required for students to be on Blendspace? And as you can see here, it is optional. So for any of your elementary school students, an email is not necessary. I'm going to put in a username and then a password. And then that 4-letter code that I just got after I created my class, I can just paste it in here. And then all I need to do as a student is just click sign up. And just as there was within teacher sign up, you can also just do a single click sign up with the Google Connect with Google button. And as you can see here, I have already the English period 1 class that I was already enrolled in after my teacher created it. And so for me as a student to be able to create a lesson within this class, all I need to do is just click plus new lesson, and I'm going to put it in English period 1. And as a student, I have the same editing abilities as I do as a teacher. So you can still do your YouTube searches, still do your education searches like Joe was talking about. So for example here, if I wanted to do a story about, E for electron, I can go ahead and find the videos on YouTube, put it in here, and drag and drop. It's the same exact experience that you have as a teacher. And so let me go back into my teacher screen here, and you can see where the student's lesson comes up. And so once I log in, again, I go back to my Classes tab, and I go into my English period 1 class, which is the one I just created. And you can see that the other student, Amy Lin, was able to created this lesson, and as a teacher, you can just go ahead and just view it directly within Blendspace. Your student doesn't even need to actually share it with you. Simply by them being enrolled in your class, you're able to see it in real time, all of their progress. And creating classes, it's super easy. You can go ahead and, once you're inside classes, be able to manage classes. So you can go ahead and delete students if you want to. There's also an option here, there's a checkbox that says allow students to see all lessons. So what this means is if you want all of your students to be able to see other students' lessons or stories within their Blendspace account, go ahead and check on that checkbox, and then students will be able to see everyone else's work. And this is a really great way to have your students be able to comment on each other's work, and really to be able to give that peer feedback without too many steps that they have to do in between. So everyone, that concludes our digital storytelling webinar with a little bit at the very end about how do you create classes within Blendspace and get your students on board. Once again, this video will be posted online, so you can check it out at www.blendspace.com/training. This is also where you're going to be able to see also the recording of our webinar from last week. I'll also be sending out a recorded video link as well as a link to Joe's presentation, so you can have all of those resources at your own disposal. And as Joe was mentioning about using voice comments to be able to do an audio narrative within your digital stories, that is something that's available within Blendspace Premium. And as the same offer applies from last week, any participant of our webinar gets an additional 10% off of our Blendspace Premium plan. So definitely take advantage of this great offer. And if you have any questions, feel free to continue tweeting at us or posting on Facebook using the #Blendspace hashtag, and we'll make sure to answer all of your questions. Thank you again for joining us this week. We will be on for our last webinar next week on Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, and this one will be around blending offline and online instruction. So this will be a fantastic one to end our series of webinars on. So please, everyone, have a great rest of your evening, and we will talk to you soon via the interwebs. Good night.